Mira had always felt a special connection with her grandfather, Mr. Ahmed. Even though he had passed away 5 years ago, she remembered him clearly. His kind smile, gentle voice, and endless stories of adventure had filled her childhood with joy. He often told her about his travels to mountains, rivers, and small towns that seemed almost magical. Every Sunday, Mira made it a point to visit his grave. She would carry flowers, talk to him, and sometimes sit quietly just to feel his presence. One bright morning, Mira woke up early. The sun had barely risen, painting the sky with soft shades of orange and pink. She packed a small basket with fresh flowers, marigolds and daisies, her grandfather's favorites. She wore her light green dress and tied her hair in a simple braid. She called her little brother Sammy, but he was too sleepy to come with her. Mira didn't mind. She liked these visits alone because they allowed her to think and remember stories her grandfather had shared. The cemetery was not far from their home. As she walked through the narrow path lined with old trees, she noticed birds chirping cheerfully and leaves rustling in the gentle morning breeze. Mira liked the peacefulness of the place. Each gravestone told a story, and sometimes she imagined what life had been like for the people buried there. She reached her grandfather's grave, a neatly kept plot with a simple marble headstone. She smiled as she saw the flowers from last week still in place, though slightly faded. Mira knelt down and arranged the fresh flowers on the grave. As she did, her eyes caught something unusual near the edge of the grave. The soil looked disturbed, as if someone had recently dug there. A small hole had formed about the size of a teacup. Mira's heart began to race. She leaned closer and carefully peered into it. The hole seemed deeper than it first appeared, and a faint glimmer reflected sunlight from inside. She blinked in surprise and curiosity. Who would dig here? She whispered to herself, touching the edge of the soil. It felt soft, like it had been recently turned. Mira stood up and looked around the cemetery. No one else was in sight. The place was as quiet as ever, except for the sound of the wind in the trees and the occasional chirping of birds. Her mind raced with questions. Could it be an animal? Or something else? Mira ran back to her mother, Amina, who was watering the flowers near another grave. Mama, there is a hole in grandfather's grave," she called out, her voice filled with worry. Amina looked up, her face showing concern. She quickly set down the watering can and followed Mira to the grave. When she saw the hole, she knelt down and touched the soil carefully. "This is strange," she murmured. "It looks like someone dug here recently. We need to be careful. Mira, do not touch it anymore. I will call your father and the authorities." Mira's little brother Sammy had now woken up and ran toward them, rubbing his eyes. "What's happening?" he asked, looking confused. "There is a hole in grandfather's grave," Mira explained quickly. "I saw it first. It looks like someone dug there." Sammy's eyes widened. "Did someone take something from grandfather?" "I don't know, Sammy," Amina replied. "But we must find out. Your father will know what to do." Soon Mira's father, Hamid, arrived at the cemetery. He was a tall man with a serious but kind expression. When he saw the hole, he knelt down to inspect it. "This is unusual," he said. "It is not very deep, but it is fresh. Mira, thank you for telling us. You did the right thing." Hamid called the local police to report the strange hole. While waiting for them to arrive, Mira, Sammy, and their parents stood by the grave talking quietly. Mira could not stop staring at the hole. She felt a strange mixture of fear and excitement. She wanted to see what was inside, but also knew it could be dangerous. After a few minutes, 2 police officers arrived. They examined the grave carefully. Officer Tariq, a kind man who often spoke gently to children, knelt down and looked into the hole. "You are right, young lady. This soil has been disturbed recently," he said. "We will check if anything has been removed or buried here. Please step back." Mira stepped back, feeling a mix of curiosity and worry. She looked at her mother, who held her hand tightly. Sammy was also watching closely, unable to contain his curiosity. Mira remembered her grandfather's stories about secret treasures he sometimes joked about hiding when he was young. Could it be possible that something like that was buried here? The officers carefully dug around the hole, using small tools to avoid damaging anything inside. Mira watched closely. Suddenly, one of the officers pulled out a small old wooden box. It was covered in dirt, but its metal hinges were still intact. Mira gasped. "What is it?" she whispered. Officer Tariq looked at Hamid. "It seems to be some kind of old box. We will open it carefully and see what is inside." Hamid nodded. "Be careful. This belonged to my father. Whatever is inside may be very important. The officer gently cleaned the box and opened it. Inside, there were several old papers tied with a red ribbon. Mira and Sammy leaned in closer, their eyes wide. The papers looked very old, yellowed with time. There was also a small locket, shiny even after all the years. Mira recognized it immediately. That locket belonged to grandmother, Mira said softly, remembering her grandfather's stories about it. Hamid took the locket carefully. Yes, it is hers. I thought it was lost long ago. My father must have hidden it here for some reason. Mira's mother opened one of the papers. They were letters written by Mr. Ahmed himself. The handwriting was neat, and Mira felt as if she could hear her grandfather's voice while reading them. The letters spoke of his childhood, the struggles he had faced, and the dreams he had for his family. Some letters even contained clues about family secrets Mira had never known. Mira felt a thrill run through her body. The discovery of this hole had uncovered something extraordinary. Her grandfather's careful hiding of the locket and letters seemed intentional, almost like he had planned for his family to find them one day. Sammy picked up one of the letters carefully. "Mira, read this one," he said excitedly. Mira took the letter and began reading aloud. The letter spoke of a hidden place near the old well in their village, where Mr. Ahmed had kept special items from his past. It also mentioned a promise to his grandchildren that they would one day discover the importance of honesty, courage, and family unity through these hidden treasures. Mira looked at her parents. "Grandfather left this for us. He wanted us to find it someday," she said softly. Her mother nodded. "He always believed in teaching lessons in unusual ways," Amina said. "We must follow the clues carefully. This could be an important moment for our family." Mira felt a sense of pride and excitement. What had started as a simple visit to the grave had turned into a mysterious adventure. The family would soon follow the clues left by Mr. Ahmed, and Mira knew that this journey would bring them closer together and reveal stories they had never heard before. As the sun climbed higher, casting warm light on the cemetery, Mira stood by her grandfather's grave and smiled. The hole, which had seemed frightening at first, had turned into a doorway to the past. She felt her grandfather's presence more strongly than ever. He had left a message for them, a lesson in love, courage, and family ties that would guide them in ways they could not yet imagine. The day had begun with a simple discovery, but Mira sensed that it was only the start of something far greater. Her grandfather's secrets were waiting to be unveiled, and the family would be shocked and amazed by what they would find next. Mira held the locket gently, promising herself that she would uncover every secret, follow every clue, and honor the memory of the man who had given her so much love and wisdom. After the startling discovery of the locket and letters in her grandfather's grave, Mira could hardly sleep that night. She lay on her bed, thinking about the hidden messages her grandfather had left. The letters were not just old memories. They were clues, carefully written for her and her brother to follow. She wondered what secrets might be waiting for them and why her grandfather had chosen this unusual way to reveal them. The next morning, Mira woke early again. She could hear birds singing outside her window, and the sunlight streamed in, filling her room with warmth. She quietly woke Sammy and told him to get ready. "Today we will start looking for the place grandfather mentioned in his letter," she whispered excitedly. Sammy's eyes sparkled. "Do you think there will be treasure, Mira?" he asked, bouncing on his bed. Mira smiled. "I don't know, Sammy, but I know grandfather wanted us to find something important. It could be a lesson, not just treasure. Let's find out together." They had breakfast quickly, and Mira showed the letters and locket to their parents. Hamid and Amina examined them carefully. "This is extraordinary," Hamid said. "Your grandfather always believed in guiding us in mysterious ways. These letters might teach us more about our family than we know," Amina added. "We must be careful and follow every clue. Mr. Ahmed would not have made it easy, but he wanted us to find the answers. This is a special moment for our family." The first clue in the letter mentioned the old well at the edge of their village. Mira and Sammy, along with their father and mother, walked toward the well, carrying a small bag with water and snacks for the journey. The path to the well was lined with trees, and the sunlight filtered through the leaves, creating a playful pattern on the ground. Mira felt her heart beat faster with every step. When they reached the well, Mira noticed its old stones covered in moss. It looked like it had not been used in years. She bent down and examined the stones carefully. The letter had mentioned a mark on the stones that would show the next clue. Mira ran her fingers along the surface until she felt a small carved symbol, a crescent moon with a tiny star in the middle. "Look, Sammy." "This is it," Mira exclaimed. Sammy knelt down and looked closely. "It's just a small symbol." "How can this be a clue?" he asked, confused. Mira smiled. Grandfather loved puzzles. Small details are important. She looked at the letter again and realized that the symbol was a direction. The crescent moon pointed toward the old banyan tree at the center of the village. The family walked carefully toward the tree, keeping their eyes open for anything unusual. The village seemed peaceful, with children playing near the fields and farmers tending to crops. But Mira could feel a sense of excitement building inside her. She knew they were close to uncovering more of her grandfather's secret. When they reached the old banyan tree, Mira noticed something strange. One of the roots was twisted in a peculiar shape, and there was a hollow space underneath it. Mira knelt down and peeked inside. It was empty except for a small envelope. She picked it up carefully and opened it. Inside was a note written in her grandfather's handwriting. "To find what is hidden, you must remember the lessons of courage, honesty, and kindness. Follow the path to the river where the stones will guide you." Mira's eyes widened. "The river!" "That's the next step," she said. Sammy clapped his hands in excitement. "Grandfather is making this like an adventure for us." The family followed the dirt path that led to the river. The sound of flowing water grew louder with every step, and the sunlight danced on the surface of the river, making it look magical. Mira felt as if she was walking into one of her grandfather's stories. At the riverbank, Mira noticed several large stones arranged in a line. She remembered the letter's words, "The stones will guide you." She studied the stones carefully and realized that each one had a tiny mark carved on it, similar to the symbols she had seen earlier. She stepped on the first stone and felt it was solid. She looked at the next stone, then the next, following the path along the riverbank. After a short distance, the stones led them to a small clearing. In the center, there was an old wooden box, partially hidden under some leaves. Mira's heart raced. Could this be another box like the one from grandfather's grave? She called her parents over, and together they lifted the box. It was heavier than it looked, and its surface was worn with age. Hamid carefully opened the box. Inside, they found several more letters and a small bundle wrapped in cloth. Mira untied the bundle and found an old journal, its cover worn but intact. The letters explained that her grandfather had kept a journal throughout his life, recording not only his experiences but also his thoughts, dreams, and lessons for his family. Mira opened the journal and began reading aloud. The entries spoke of her grandfather's early years, the challenges he faced, and the importance of courage in difficult times. He wrote about honesty in every action and kindness to every person, no matter how small the gesture. Some entries described adventures in distant towns, while others were about simple moments like watching the sunset or listening to the rain. Sammy listened with wide eyes, fascinated by the stories. "Grandfather lived so many amazing lives," he exclaimed. Mira nodded. "He wanted us to learn from him. Every clue, every letter is a lesson we must understand." The family spent hours by the river reading the journal and examining the letters. Mira noticed that some of the letters contained hints about people her grandfather had met. One letter mentioned an old friend named Karim, who lived on the other side of the village and had helped her grandfather in important matters. Mira realized that Karim might know more about the secrets her grandfather had hidden. "We should visit Karim tomorrow," Hamid suggested. "He may have information that can guide us further." Mira agreed. Yes, grandfather mentioned him in the letters. He trusted Karim with important matters. As the sun began to set, the family packed the journal, letters, and locket carefully. Mira felt a deep sense of gratitude for her grandfather. He had created a journey for them that was more than just a treasure hunt. It was a way to bring the family closer, teach lessons, and connect them to their roots. On the way back home, Mira walked slowly, holding Sammy's hand. She looked at the locket she had kept safely in her pocket. It shone faintly in the evening light. "Grandfather planned everything so carefully," she said softly. "He wanted us to understand the value of family, courage, and kindness." At home, the family gathered in the living room to discuss their next steps. Amina suggested making a list of every clue they had found so far. "We need to follow these carefully," she said. "Your grandfather would want us to solve this in order, not rush through it." Mira nodded. "We will. Tomorrow we will visit Karim. He may guide us further. Sammy yawned but smiled. I can't wait for the next clue. Hamid chuckled. Patience is also part of the lesson. Your grandfather taught us to be patient, brave, and careful. Each step we take is important. Mira felt a warm sense of connection to her grandfather. Even though he was gone, his words, letters, and carefully hidden clues made him feel alive. She realized that the adventure was not just about finding objects or treasures. It was about understanding her grandfather's life, his values, and the wisdom he wanted to pass on. That night, Mira lay in bed thinking about the river, the stones, the box, and the journal. She felt a mix of excitement and responsibility. She knew that the journey was far from over. There were more clues to find, more lessons to learn, and perhaps more surprises waiting to be discovered. As she drifted off to sleep, Mira whispered to herself, Grandfather, I will follow your path. I will learn your lessons and keep your memory alive. Sammy, sleeping beside her, smiled in his sleep as if he could feel the adventure that awaited them. Mira knew that together as a family, they would uncover every secret and honor the legacy of the man who had given them so much love, guidance, and inspiration. The journey had just begun, and the hidden mysteries of her grandfather's life promised to surprise and teach them in ways they could never imagine. Mira felt a sense of courage and determination. Whatever came next, she knew that the family would face it together with love, honesty, and bravery. The next morning, Mira and her family prepared to visit Karim, her grandfather's old friend mentioned in the letters. Mira felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness. She had never met Karim before, but the letters spoke of him as someone who had shared many adventures with her grandfather and had been trusted with important family secrets. The village was quiet as they walked toward Karim's house, which was at the far end of the village near the hills. Birds sang in the trees, and the morning sun cast soft golden light over the fields. Mira held Sammy's hand as they passed familiar landmarks. Even though it was the same village she had known all her life, today it felt different. Everything seemed connected to her grandfather's story. When they reached Karim's house, they saw an old man standing outside, tending to a small garden. His hair was white, and his eyes had a warm, kind expression. Mira felt an instant sense of trust. Good morning, sir, Hamid said politely. We are the children of Mr. Ahmed. He mentioned you often in his letters. Karim looked at Mira and Sammy and smiled. Ah, you must be Mira and Sammy, he said. I have waited for this day. Your grandfather spoke highly of you both. Come inside and we will talk. The family followed Karim into his house, which smelled faintly of herbs and wood polish. The walls were lined with old photographs and paintings. Mira noticed a photograph of her grandfather standing with Karim, both smiling broadly in front of a river. She felt a pang of nostalgia and warmth. Karim led them to a small table in the living room and served tea. Your grandfather trusted me with many things, Karim said, his voice calm and steady. He left messages for you, letters and clues, so that you could understand his life and family. He wanted you to find them and learn from them. Mira carefully took out the letters in the journal. Karim's eyes twinkled as he looked at them. I see you have found his first clues very well. There is more for you to discover, but it requires patience and courage. Are you ready? Mira nodded. Yes, sir. We want to know everything he wanted us to find. Karim reached under the table and pulled out a small wooden box. Your grandfather gave me this many years ago. He told me to give it to you only when you had discovered the first clues. Inside, you will find keys and papers that will guide you further. Hamid opened the box carefully. Inside were 3 small keys and a folded map of the village and surrounding areas. Mira unfolded the map and studied it closely. The map shows a forest near the river, she said. And there are symbols marked on certain locations. These must be the next clues, Karim nodded. Exactly. Your grandfather wanted you to find these locations. Each place holds a lesson and an object that tells part of his story. But remember, the journey is not just about finding objects. It is about understanding his life and the values he wanted to teach you. Sammy, who had been quietly listening, spoke up. Do we go there today? Karim smiled gently. Yes, but you must be careful. The first location is in the forest. You will need courage because it is not always easy to follow hidden paths. But your grandfather believed in you, and I am sure you will succeed. The family thanked Karim and began their walk toward the forest. Mira held the map tightly, feeling the weight of responsibility. She also felt excitement. Each step they took seemed to bring her closer to her grandfather's spirit. The forest was thick with tall trees and vines. Birds flew overhead, and the sunlight filtered through the leaves, creating patterns on the ground. Mira remembered the letters which spoke about courage. She led the way, stepping carefully along narrow paths. Sammy ran ahead, excitedly looking for signs of the next clue. After walking for some time, Mira noticed a small clearing. In the center stood a stone statue of an owl. Its eyes seemed to glimmer in the sunlight. Mira knelt down and examined the base of the statue. There was a small keyhole shaped to match one of the keys they had received from Kareem. "Look, Sammy," Mira said, "and this must be the place." She inserted the key and turned it gently. A small compartment opened, revealing another bundle of letters in a wooden box. Mira carefully removed the box. Inside, they found a diary belonging to her grandfather's childhood friend. Kareem had told them about him. And also a small compass with a note attached. Mira opened the note. It read, "This compass will guide you through paths unknown. Remember, every direction has meaning. Follow your heart and you will find what matters most." Sammy held the compass carefully. "It looks magical," he said. Mira nodded. "It is in a way. It will guide us not just to objects but to lessons Grandfather wanted us to learn." The family sat in the clearing for a while, reading the letters and diary. They learned about Mr. Ahmed's childhood, his friendships, and the challenges he had faced. Mira realized that the lessons her grandfather had written were not just about courage and honesty, but also about resilience, patience, and the importance of family bonds. After some time, they continued their journey through the forest. The map led them to a small stream. The letters had mentioned this stream, describing it as a place where her grandfather had spent time thinking and learning. Mira knelt down and dipped her hand in the cool water, feeling a connection to her grandfather. Sammy splashed water playfully but quickly stopped when Mira reminded him to be careful. Following the map, they arrived at an old abandoned cottage. Mira noticed that the door was locked, but there was a small keyhole. Using one of the keys from Kareem's box, Hamid unlocked the door. Inside, the cottage was dusty but filled with old furniture and shelves lined with books. Mira carefully explored the room and found a small chest under a table. Inside, there were photographs of her grandfather as a young boy, letters from his parents, and some handmade toys. Mira held the photographs in her hands, studying each one. She could see the joy and innocence in her grandfather's eyes. "He wanted us to see this," she said softly. "He wanted us to understand where he came from and what shaped him." Amina smiled. "Yes, and he wanted you both to learn that family history is important. Knowing where we come from helps us understand who we are." Sammy found an old notebook with drawings and writings. "Look, Mira, these are stories Grandfather wrote when he was young." Mira smiled and read aloud. The stories were full of imagination, adventure, and moral lessons. Each one seemed to reflect a part of her grandfather's character, his courage, honesty, and kindness. As the sun began to set, the family sat in the cottage and reflected on their day. Mira felt a deep sense of connection to her grandfather. His letters, journals, and the objects he had hidden were teaching them more than any ordinary lessons could. Hamid looked at his children. "Your grandfather was wise," he said. "He left us this journey so that we could learn, grow, and appreciate our family. Each clue is important, and each lesson must be understood." Mira nodded. "I understand now. It's not just about finding things. It's about learning from Grandfather and keeping his memory alive in our actions." Sammy yawned. "It was a long day, but I am happy. Grandfather's stories are amazing." As they walked back home through the forest, Mira held the compass tightly. She knew that the next clues would be even more challenging, but she felt ready. With her family by her side, she could face anything. That night, Mira placed the diary, letters, compass, and locket carefully on her desk. She thought about the courage and patience her grandfather had written about. She felt proud to be part of this journey and promised herself to follow the path he had created. The family had uncovered more than just objects. They had uncovered a connection to their grandfather, to each other, and to the lessons he had spent his life learning. Mira knew that there were still surprises ahead, secrets waiting to be revealed, and moments that would shock them in ways they could never imagine. As she drifted to sleep, Mira whispered softly, "Grandfather, we will follow your path. We will learn everything you wanted us to know." Sammy, already asleep, smiled in his dreams. Mira felt a sense of warmth and courage. The adventure was far from over, and the hidden treasures of her grandfather's life promised to bring more knowledge, joy, and unity to their family. The next day would be another step in the journey, another clue to follow and another secret to uncover. Mira was ready for it, and she knew her family was too. The following morning, Mira woke up early, her mind full of anticipation. The compass from her grandfather's hidden box rested on her desk, pointing in the direction she needed to go. Sammy, still sleepy, yawned as he followed her to the breakfast table. Mira could feel a sense of urgency mixed with excitement. Today they were going to the final locations marked on the map, and she had a feeling that the biggest secret her grandfather had left was about to be revealed. After a quick breakfast, Mira, Sammy, and their parents set out toward the outskirts of the village. The sun was bright and the air was filled with the fragrance of fresh grass. Mira held the compass tightly, while her father carried the journal and letters. Each step felt purposeful, as if the ground beneath them recognized the journey her grandfather had prepared. The first clue on the map led them to a small hill covered with wildflowers. Mira noticed an old stone marker at the top. It had a carved symbol of a tree, much like the ones in her grandfather's letters. She examined it closely and saw a small latch at the base of the marker. Her mother looked over her shoulder. "Do you think there is something inside?" Amina asked softly. Mira nodded and pressed the latch. The stone marker opened slowly, revealing a narrow compartment inside. Mira reached in and carefully pulled out another wooden box, this one heavier than the others. Hamid opened it carefully. Inside, they found several folded letters and an old photograph of a family Mira did not recognize immediately. Mira held the photograph gently. It showed a man and a woman standing with a young boy and girl. The children looked similar to her father and aunt, though the picture seemed decades old. She turned to her father. "Who are they?" she asked. Hamid studied the photograph and gasped softly. This is my father's cousin's family," he said slowly. "I remember stories about them, but I never met them. There was some disagreement in the past and the families lost touch. I did not know there were letters or photographs kept hidden." Mira opened one of the letters carefully. The handwriting was delicate and careful, similar to her grandfather's style. The letter spoke about family struggles, the importance of forgiveness, and the hope that one day the family would reunite. Mira felt a lump in her throat. Her grandfather had kept these messages secret, waiting for the right time for his grandchildren to discover them. Sammy looked confused. "Why did grandfather hide this?" he asked softly. Mira smiled gently. "Sometimes people hide important things to protect others or to make sure the right moment comes. Grandfather wanted us to find this when we were ready to understand." The next clue on the map led the family to a small abandoned barn near the river. The barn was old, with wooden beams that creaked under their weight as they stepped inside. Dust floated in the sunlight that streamed through the gaps in the walls. Mira's heart raced. The letters had mentioned a hidden chest in a barn, containing objects that reflected her grandfather's early life. They searched carefully, and behind a stack of old hay bales, Mira noticed a trap door in the floor. The compass seemed to point directly at it. Hamid and Mira lifted the heavy door, revealing a small underground chamber. Inside, the room was surprisingly intact. There were shelves lined with boxes, jars, and old tools. Mira stepped inside, her eyes wide with amazement. On one of the shelves, she found a large chest. It was locked, but one of the keys from Kareem's box fit perfectly. Mira turned the key slowly, and the chest creaked open. Inside, they found old toys, books, and a bundle of letters tied with a golden ribbon. Mira opened the bundle carefully. The letters contained messages from her grandfather to his children and grandchildren, filled with life lessons, advice, and personal reflections. As Mira read aloud, her parents listened quietly. Some letters spoke of courage and kindness, while others revealed personal struggles her grandfather had faced but never shared openly. Mira realized that her grandfather had hidden these not to keep secrets, but to teach them about resilience and understanding. Then, in the corner of the chest, Mira noticed a small envelope labeled, "For Mira and Sammy only." She opened it carefully and unfolded a letter written in her grandfather's handwriting. It read, "Dear Mira and Sammy, if you are reading this, it means you have followed the path carefully. You have shown patience, courage, and respect for family. There is one final truth I want you to know. Our family has faced difficulties, but love and understanding can overcome anything. Look closely at the photograph of the family you found at the hill. They are your relatives. Some mistakes cause separation, but you have the power to bring everyone together. Keep these letters safe and let our family story continue with forgiveness and unity. Mira's eyes filled with tears. She realized that the secret her grandfather had left was not just about objects or letters, but about family reconciliation and understanding. Her heart swelled with determination. Sammy, we must help our family reunite. This is what grandfather wanted, she said. Her father nodded solemnly. He trusted you to carry this forward. We will find a way to contact our relatives and rebuild what was lost. Sammy hugged Mira. I feel like grandfather is guiding us even now, he said softly. The family spent the rest of the afternoon exploring the barn, organizing the letters and making notes. Mira carefully read each one aloud, ensuring that every lesson and story was preserved. She felt proud of their progress. Each discovery was a step closer to understanding her grandfather's life and the wisdom he wanted to pass on. As the sun began to set, casting warm orange light over the river, Mira noticed something unusual near the back of the barn. There was a small worn notebook tucked under a loose floorboard. She pulled it out and opened it. Inside were sketches of the village, markings of places she had visited on this journey, and notes about her grandfather's friendships and experiences. The notebook seemed to connect everything they had discovered so far. Mira realized that her grandfather had carefully planned this journey, leaving instructions for them to follow in a specific order. Every clue, every object, and every letter had a purpose. It was not just about discovering items, but about learning values, understanding family history, and bringing the family closer together. Hamid looked at Mira and Sami. Your grandfather was a wise man. He wanted us to learn patience, courage, and forgiveness. These discoveries are more valuable than anything else. Amina smiled. Yes, and now it is up to us to continue his work. We have learned his lessons, and now we must use them to strengthen our family. Mira carefully packed the letters, journal, locket, and notebook. She felt a sense of pride and responsibility. Her grandfather had trusted them with his legacy, and she knew that they could honor him by sharing it with the family. That evening, as they walked back home, Mira held the golden ribbon of letters close to her heart. She felt a strong connection to her grandfather, as if he were walking with them, guiding every step. Sammy held the compass, which pointed steadily toward home, and smiled. Grandfather's adventure is amazing, he said softly. Mira nodded. Yes, and the best part is, we get to continue it by helping our family understand and forgive. That is the real treasure. As the family reached their home, they felt a renewed sense of purpose. The shocking discovery of hidden letters, objects, and family secrets had taught them important lessons about love, patience, and understanding. Mira knew that the journey was not over. There were still steps to take, conversations to have, and family members to reconnect with. But for the first time, she felt confident that they could face everything together. That night, Mira placed the journal, letters, locket, and notebook carefully on her desk. She looked out the window at the stars shining in the sky. She whispered softly, Grandfather, we have learned your lessons. We will honor your memory and bring our family together. Sammy, already asleep, muttered in his dreams, Grandfather is proud of us. Mira smiled, feeling a warm sense of courage and hope. The next day would be another step in their journey, as they worked to reunite the family and share the wisdom their grandfather had left behind. She knew that the most shocking discovery was not objects or letters, but the truth about family, forgiveness, and love. The night was calm and peaceful, but Mira felt a spark of excitement for what was to come. The final part of their journey promised to be the most emotional and rewarding yet, as the family prepared to face the ultimate revelation that would change their lives forever. The following morning, Mira woke with a sense of determination. Today was the day she and her family would take the next step in honoring their grandfather's wishes. The letters, journals, locket, and the compass all pointed to one final task, reconnecting with the relatives her grandfather had mentioned. Mira could feel her heart pounding with both excitement and nervousness. This was the moment where everything would come together, and the full meaning of her grandfather's journey would be revealed. After breakfast, Mira, Sami, Hamid, and Amina prepared to visit the family members whose photograph they had found on the hill. They carried the letters and journal carefully, wanting to present everything respectfully. Mira held the locket close, feeling her grandfather's presence guiding her. Sammy carried the compass, which seemed to point the way forward, as if it understood the importance of their journey. The house of their relatives was not far from the village. As they approached, Mira noticed an older woman sitting in the garden, tending to flowers, and a man repairing a small wooden fence. They looked up, surprise and curiosity in their eyes. Hamid took a deep breath and spoke politely. "Good morning. My name is Hamid, and this is my family. We are relatives of your family. We come with letters and messages from our late father and grandfather, Mr. Ahmed." The woman, whose name was Farida, looked stunned. She wiped her hands on her apron and came closer. "Relatives? After all these years?" she said softly. "It has been so long since we heard from your family. Please come in." Inside the house, Mira and her family laid out the letters, journals, and photographs. Farida and her husband Imran studied each item carefully, their eyes filled with tears as they read the letters that spoke of family, forgiveness, and the importance of unity. Mira noticed that some of the letters directly addressed the distance and misunderstandings that had separated the families. Her grandfather had written them in a way that expressed love and hope, despite past disagreements. Mira handed the locket to Farida. "This belonged to grandmother," she said softly. "Grandfather wanted us to find it and share it with you." Farida held the locket close, her hands trembling. "I cannot believe this. It has been missing for decades," she said. "Your grandfather? He always cared about family. He wanted to make sure we remembered what is truly important." Sammy, noticing the emotional reaction, whispered to Mira, "I think they are happy we came." Mira nodded. "Yes, Sammy, this is what grandfather wanted. Happiness and togetherness." Hamid spoke gently to Farida and Imran. "We have discovered all of grandfather's letters and journals. He wanted us to learn from them, and he hoped we could bring our families together. We hope we can rebuild the bond that was lost." Farida smiled, her eyes glistening. "Your grandfather was wise. These letters, these stories, they remind us of what we have forgotten. We will honor his wishes and welcome your family into ours." Mira felt tears welling up in her eyes. She realized that the most important treasure her grandfather had left was not objects, journals, or letters. It was the opportunity to reunite the family and heal old wounds. Over the next few hours, the two families talked, shared stories, and laughed together. Mira and Sammy listened as their father and Farida's husband Imran spoke about childhood memories and the events that had caused the families to drift apart. Mira noticed that many of the misunderstandings were based on small events blown out of proportion. And the love her grandfather had always spoken about had been present, even if it had been unrecognized. Mira read some of the letters aloud to the gathered family members. Each letter emphasized kindness, honesty, and the importance of keeping family bonds strong. The messages touched everyone deeply. Farida embraced Mira and Sammy warmly. "Your grandfather trusted you to bring us together. You have done it beautifully," she said. Imran nodded in agreement. "Yes, it is as if he guided us all through his letters and instructions. He was a remarkable man." As the afternoon passed, Mira suggested visiting the cemetery together. "Grandfather would want us to honor him and remember that all of this started with his grave," she said softly. The families agreed, and they walked together to the cemetery, carrying flowers in the locket. When they reached the grave, Mira placed the flowers carefully and then handed the locket to her mother, Amina, who placed it gently beside the headstone. Mira stood silently, feeling a wave of peace. Sammy stood next to her, holding the compass. "Grandfather is smiling at us," he whispered. Hamid looked around at the gathered family members. "This is what grandfather wanted," he said. "To bring us together, to heal old wounds, and to remind us of the importance of family. Today, we have honored his wishes." Farida and Imran knelt and placed flowers beside the grave. Mira noticed that everyone's expressions had softened, and a sense of unity filled the air. The gap of years and misunderstanding seemed smaller, replaced by warmth, understanding, and forgiveness. Mira felt a deep sense of fulfillment. The journey her grandfather had designed had led them here, not to treasure or wealth, but to a stronger family bond and lessons that would guide them forever. She realized that courage, honesty, and kindness were not just words in letters. They were actions they had to take in real life. Sammy leaned on Mira's shoulder and smiled. "This is the best adventure ever," he said quietly. Mira nodded. "Yes, it is. And it is real, because it brought everyone together." That evening, the families gathered at Farida and Imran's house for dinner. Stories were shared, laughter echoed, and Mira felt a warmth she had never experienced before. The letters, photographs, and objects her grandfather had hidden had become bridges, connecting generations and teaching everyone valuable lessons about love and unity. Mira thought about her grandfather's careful planning. Every step, every clue, and every hidden object had a purpose. He had known that discovering the physical objects would not be enough. The real lesson was about family, forgiveness, and understanding. He had trusted them to follow his path carefully and wisely, and Mira realized that they had succeeded. Later that night, Mira and Sammy returned home with their parents. They placed the letters, journal, compass, and locket safely on their desk. Mira looked at the items and smiled. "Grandfather gave us a journey, a lesson, and a family," she said softly. Sammy nodded sleepily, clutching the compass. Mira reflected on everything that had happened over the past few days. The discovery of the hole in her grandfather's grave had led to an adventure filled with letters, clues, and hidden objects. But the most important revelation had been the hidden truth about family, love, forgiveness, and unity. She understood that her grandfather had prepared this journey not to surprise them for fun, but to teach them life lessons that would last forever. As Mira lay in bed that night, she whispered softly, "Grandfather, thank you for trusting us. We will honor your lessons and keep our family strong." Sammy, already asleep, murmured, "Grandfather is proud of us." Mira smiled and closed her eyes, feeling a deep sense of peace and fulfillment. The next morning, Mira woke with a new perspective. She knew that life would have challenges, but the lessons her grandfather had left behind would guide them. The letters, journals, compass, and locket were more than objects. They were symbols of courage, honesty, kindness, and the strength of family bonds. From that day on, Mira, Sammy, and their parents made a promise to continue their grandfather's legacy. They would share his lessons with future generations, keep the family united, and always remember the adventure that had begun with a simple hole in a grave. The story of discovery, courage, and family unity spread throughout the village. Everyone admired Mira and her family for honoring their grandfather's wishes. Mira realized that the most shocking revelation had not been the hidden letters or objects, but the truth about her family, the love, forgiveness, and connections that had waited for years to be restored. Mira felt proud, grateful, and full of hope. The adventure her grandfather had designed had succeeded in every way. The family was stronger, closer, and wiser. Mira knew that they would carry these lessons for the rest of their lives. The journey had ended, but the legacy of courage, honesty, and love would continue forever. Mira smiled, thinking of her grandfather. His plan had worked perfectly. Through a hole in a grave, letters, and hidden clues, he had reunited the family, taught them lessons, and left them with memories that would last forever. And as the sun set over the village, Mira felt her grandfather's presence warm and comforting, knowing that his family was finally complete, united by love, courage, and understanding.